Fascism. Although mostly frowned upon nowadays in the Western world, the idea of ultranationalism was incredibly popular only 100 years ago. Now, for those who didn't pay attention during history class when the famous isms were introduced, nationalism is the idea that one should be proud of their own country. Fascism, on the other hand, takes the idea of nationalism and applies this times 10. A fascist is a person that is an ultranationalist, believes his or her country should thrive, even if that means taking advantage of other countries and groups, but most importantly, believes in the importance of an all-powerful leader. Famous examples are, of course, Adolf Hitler of Germany and Benito Mussolini of Italy. A slightly lesser-known example of a fascist leader is Hideki Tojo, the Prime Minister of Japan from 1941 to 1944. Born in 1884, on December 30th, Tojo would spend most of his adult life as a high-ranking officer in the Japanese army, before becoming the leader of Japan. The military had a central role in Japanese politics during the 1930s and 1940s, which in turn made it easier for Tojo to not only gain a high-ranking position in the military, but also in politics. Before actually becoming the Prime Minister of Japan, and therefore taking over control of the country, he would first serve as the Minister of War, under Prime Minister Fumimaro Konoe. On October 18th, 1941, Tojo would succeed Konoe as Prime Minister, solidifying his control over Japan. Tojo pledged his government to a Greater East Asia program, a new order in Asia, so to speak. Before we talk about this, we first have to discuss the role of the Japanese Emperor, though, considering that the Japanese Emperor has always played a vital role in Japanese politics. According to the Meiji Constitution of 1889, the Japanese Emperor had supreme authority over his country, making him the sole ruler of Japan. Taking this into consideration, how was Hideki Tojo able to exercise such power over a country that, on paper at least, bowed its head to only one man, Emperor Hirohito? Although many theories exist about Emperor Hirohito's role in Japanese politics, two major theories seem to take the foreground. The first theory states that Emperor Hirohito had lost most of his power behind the scenes, considering that Tojo and other officials controlled the army. This meant that Emperor Hirohito had to sign whatever was presented to him in order to guarantee his safety and position as God among men. The second theory states the emperor was in fact very active in politics and supported Tojo's expansionist policies. Considering that the emperor was all-powerful, on paper he had the power to stop the invasion of many Asian countries and also the attack on Pearl Harbor. Most historians, though, due to a lack of trustworthy sources, take the middle ground, stating that it might have been a mixture of both. After the attack on the US military base at Pearl Harbor, plunging Japan into the Second World War, Tojo executed his plans on creating a new order in Asia. Japan, with the help of its formidable and dedicated army, would soon attack and conquer many countries in Southeast Asia. Under Tojo's leadership, the idea of the Japanese being the superior race among the Asians grew even stronger. The many victories of the Japanese army solidified this idea, as even land owned by the Western European countries was rather easily conquered. Take Indonesia as an example. A Dutch colony at the time, the Japanese conquered it rather quickly. The white Dutch population and Dutch sympathizers, mainly affluent Chinese traders and Indonesians serving in the Dutch-Indonesian army, were either thrown in concentration camps or, especially the women, relocated and used as sex slaves for the Japanese soldiers. Although this superiority complex had existed and still exists today among groups of the Japanese, the fact that even the whites were unable to stop the Japanese expansion had significant positive effects on the Japanese psyche. This rapid expansion, however, wouldn't last, as once the United States of America was able to shift its attention away from Europe and focus more on East Asia, Japan now had to face one of the, if not the, most powerful country in the world. Now, with the help of the United States of America, the Allied powers slowly but steadily were able to defeat the Japanese army, the invasion of the Mariana Islands being a major blow, of course. In fact, the invasion of the Mariana Islands was such a big loss for the Japanese that Hideki Tojo lost political support. On July 18th, 1944, Tojo and his entire cabinet announced their resignation. After the United States of America dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan, the Japanese Prime Minister Koiso Kuniaki surrendered, therefore ending the Second World War in Asia. Although the consequences of the Second World War still impact the world today, we are going to avoid making this video too long by only focusing on what happened to Hideki Tojo after Japan's defeat. On September 11th, 1945, Tojo decided to commit suicide by shooting himself, after it was clear that Japan had lost the war. His suicide attempt failed though, and Tojo was nursed back to health, only to be put on trial on April 29th, 1946. Found guilty for committing several war crimes, Hideki Tojo received the death penalty and was hanged on December 23rd, 1948, 7 days before his 64th birthday. While Hitler's Nazi ideology is highly frowned upon by most modern Germans, Tojo's legacy is still honored in Japan to this very day. Sure, not every Japanese person is a Tojo fan, but there's a clear discrepancy between how Hitler's legacy is treated in Germany compared to how Tojo's legacy is treated in Japan. Many Japanese prime ministers have publicly visited Tojo's grave to commemorate him, which in turn sparked protests in many other countries, including China and South Korea, as these countries suffered immensely under Tojo's leadership. Thank you for watching One Up Japan's video about Hideki Tojo. If you like this video and want to see more, we would like to ask you to click on the like button, share this video with your friends and family members, and if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the One Up Japan channel. We hope to see you again in our next Japan-related video.